Hey folks, and welcome back to Sub 2 Investor. In this episode, I want to share my journey to financial independence using creative real estate investing. I'm hoping that in this new year, this video will provide you some insights and some motivation to take some massive imperfect action toward achieving your dream life. Now, just like I am in previous videos, I'm going to be very detailed and get into the nitty-gritty of what this actually looked like for me in my life. And I'd say it probably took me 3 years, we'll just say 3 years, probably a little bit less, to get to a point where I felt somewhat financially independent. Now, hold on one second. Let's just define this term and talk about what financial independence means. In my perspective, there's really like 3 levels of financial independence. You could probably break it down into more than that. For the time being, I'm thinking about things as like we have tier 1 or level 1 financial independence. This would be just making enough passive income from real estate to meet all of your basic expenses so that you don't have to go to your job. You don't have to have a 9 to 5. You have enough passive income to pay your living expenses, your grocery bills, your car payments, any other debts that you have, and maybe you just have a little bit left over at the end of the month. At least you have met all of your expenses. To me, that's like level 1 financial independence. And in this video, I'm talking about my journey to that. Hopefully that's exciting to you. Hopefully in your mind, you're thinking, man, if I can just like do some things that this guy did to get there. I'm just sharing my story with you, and maybe this kind of gets you excited. Real estate was all about getting financially independent in the first place. So that's like level 1 financial independence, and that's what I'm focusing on in this video. Level 1 financial independence. My story and my journey to this sort of epic milestone really began with me listening to a ton of Bigger Pockets podcast episodes. When I was a graduate student living in Milwaukee with my wife, near the end of my PhD program, I thought it might be a good idea to, have a backup plan in case the academic job market was as hard as I was anticipating and I just couldn't land a real good job, like a tenure track job. Within several years of trying, which is actually very common, it's absolutely brutal out there in, the humanities in general and religious studies and theology also, to find a tenure track position job. Anyways, I knew all that going into my PhD program, so I was just planning ahead thinking, man, it'd be nice to have some real estate to be giving me some passive income. Even if I did land a academic job that I really liked, it's probably not going to pay very well. Probably looking at, very, very average middle America salary, maybe $50,000, $60,000 a year. I need to be able to provide for my family. So probably a good idea to buy real estate anyways. So I devoured Bigger Pockets podcast episodes from episode 1 all the way to, I forgot how many episodes in they were. Those beginning episodes were really, really crucial and foundational for me, like episodes 1 to 20 or whatever, because they were very nitty gritty and detailed, kind of like the way I like to be in my videos, that really helped me take some actionable steps in real life. And so I got excited about buying my very first rental property. And so near the end of my PhD program, after I had defended my dissertation and was getting ready to graduate, my wife had just given birth to our first son. I was also looking at real estate in St. Louis, which is where I was thinking we were going to end up living because that's where my wife's family was. And if I didn't land a job, probably wasn't going to my first time around, then we would just move down there to be close to family with our little one. And so I was looking at single family houses in St. Louis remotely from Milwaukee. I had made some connections in St. Louis. I had a real estate agent who was an investor and had some connections, general contractors. The very first property that I purchased was in the city of St. Louis. I still actually hold that property to this day. When I purchased that property, I was very much in this mindset that it was going to be long-term rentals. This is what Bigger Pockets sort of hammered. This is how a lot of those people got started, was just by building a large single-family portfolio of rental properties. I remember sitting down and typing out like a 7-year plan I was just trying to get financially to a place where I could make $4,000 a month off of long-term rentals, which was about how much all of my expenses were. My rent, my grocery bills, yada, yada, yada. This was pre-COVID, pre-crazy inflation, right? So $4,000 seems so low now. But the way I was thinking about this was if I could get $200 of cash flow per rental door, then I would need 20 rental properties to get me $4,000 a month of passive income. So I started to do the math and think through, okay, I've saved up some money throughout my years of adulthood. I could probably put several down payments down for a few houses. Like we'll do one house the first year, try and do two houses the second year, and then maybe try and do three houses the following year. Then I was just trying to get to 20 houses over the course of 7 years, and that would be financial independence for me, where I'm making $4,000 a month in passive income with 20 properties, which I've purchased all the conventional way, right? Putting 20 to 25% down payments down, maybe burring some houses with like the Burr model, buying cash and whatnot. That was where my head was at when I first got into real estate. Now, I pretty quickly learned that long-term rentals were not a reliable source of cash flow, because when I actually bought the first property, rehabbed it, placed a tenant in it, I realized, man, this is a lot of work. And I had a turnover. And I was like, man, just to like get this property rent ready again, I got a vacancy and I got more money I got to put into it. Then I got to go down there and show the property. Man, if I have 20 of these, this is going to be kind of a rough ride, and it's going to take a lot of my time. And so I was still committed to the vision, but as life went on, COVID hit, it became more of a reality to me that adjunct teaching at the nearby university here wasn't going to make me enough money to support my family. So I got into wholesaling to make some more quick transactional money. I also kept buying rental properties. I had a year where I kind of was going full-time in writing sort of the second book and applying for jobs, but then also really doing a lot of real estate, trying to figure out wholesaling, doing a few deals, until 1 year later I said, okay, I just got to do real estate full-time, because I've been through several rounds of job applications, got really, really close, but it's so darn competitive out there. I'm like one of 200 in every single job interview that I just have to go full time. I got up to 10 doors on like 7 properties, which were rental properties. And we used my wife's W-2 primarily to do conventional loans on those properties. So those were loans in our name, but we held them as rentals. And at the same time, we were wholesaling deals, making some nice assignments back when, the market was hot during the days of COVID. We did decent enough to definitely support the family, but it was definitely a grind and very, very taxing. I knew I did not want to be a wholesaler in the long run. It was just not my cup of tea. And to really be successful, I would need to scale out a team and just be grinding on the phone every day, day in, day out. And just the vibe of wholesaling is not really my thing. I learned that, and I also learned that flipping, because some of the houses we took down ourselves with private money and flipped, was also extremely time consuming, and having to learn a totally new skill about houses and construction and permits and just all of this stuff that if you've never done it before, it's a massive learning curve. I had 10 rental doors. I had a property management company managing those rentals because it was too much for me trying to wholesale full time and be managing these tenants. So I decided to hire a local property management, which turned out to kind of be a fiasco and a massive problem in and of itself that I had to untangle eventually and get out of and extract myself from. And I'll get to that in just 1 second. But this entire time, I'm trying to figure out the code to real estate. Like, is it going to be wholesaling? Is it going to be flipping? Is it going to be rentals? And none of the things were passive enough. They just didn't create that what felt like a scalable model to where I could have reliable cash flow every single month. It just wasn't going to happen. I would need like 50 doors in my rental portfolio. That would cash flow me, not so much because of the monthly cash flow, but just because of market appreciation and my ability to refinance, pull cash out when I needed it, which is the actual value of holding rental properties, in my personal opinion. It's not in the cash flow. You may not even make anything with 50 doors. You might be really smart, but you may have left a ton of cash in those deals in the first place. So how are you going to recapitalize? But then you have to constantly be refinancing those houses to pull money out to actually make money off of those properties. I mean, that's how it is for some people. I might be sounding like an idiot to folks who own 50 single family rentals and are like, dude, what are you talking about? In my personal opinion, it just was a brutal path to financial independence. I just didn't want to really do it. And I'm so thankful I got into Subject 2 before it was popular. I got with a local mentor who really taught me the ropes. He was a guy that I try to be to my students, just a one-on-one person. I could hop on a Skype call or whatever, a Zoom call or phone call and talk to him. And he was just like a normal person sharing me his experience. And he was a wealth of knowledge on how to do Subject 2 and seller finance deals and sell them with seller financing on the back end. What I learned from that mentor was just life-changing. I don't know how else to put it, because it was, I think, that second year of being full-time in real estate that we did our first Subject 2 deal, and then we turned around and sold it immediately in a contract for deed, and we actually made money up front on the deal, made about $5,000. So we put that in our pockets, and then it actually cash flowed us like $250 or maybe it was $300 a month consistently, because we had acquired the property with sub 2 financing. So we had a fixed mortgage payment on the house, and then we sold it on a contract for deed with a fixed monthly payment that the buyer pays us every single month. And so that cash flow spread is the exact same every single month. And because I don't own the property, I control the property, but I don't own it anymore, all of the maintenance, the responsibilities of the property upkeep are on that buyer. And so I'm really like the bank in that scenario. That was the very first Subject 2 deal I did. I have a video that breaks down that deal in extreme detail in like 4 videos or something that you go check out. That was a deal that was an absolute game changer. It didn't necessarily feel like a game changer in the moment, because I still didn't have the vision for what my business really needed to look like, what I wanted it to look like. I didn't know what I wanted it to look like, but that was the very first glimmer of light, that deal poking through, where it was like, oh, okay, here's something that if I do that again, then I really set it and forget it. And then I do it again, I set that and forget that. I do it a 3rd time, 4th time, 5th time. And it took like half a dozen sub 2 deals that we then sold either lease option or contract for deed, but it was totally passive once we handed it off to our buyer or tenant buyer. And it took us doing that like 6 times before I started to realize this is it. This is the model that's going to get me to financial independence. Because what I wanted with long-term rentals was just like consistent cash flow. But what ended up happening with my long-term rentals was vacancies would go for another month, then another month, because of local building inspections and permits and things that our property management wasn't getting quick enough. And so there was a holdup. Tenant would stop paying, and then we'd have to evict them. And then there was a hot water heater issue at another house, and then a roof we had to put on another house. All of this money was being bled out, and all of our cash flow from our long-term rental portfolio was going towards capital expenditures. Now, I know that some people say you should have just rehabbed them all before you put them in operation, which totally works if you're buying them cash and then doing a refi. So basically, if you're borrowing. However, we were using conventional loans to buy them. We just didn't want to buy total trash, and we didn't want to necessarily refinance right away every single one of those properties. So we didn't have the luxury of buying perfect properties. We just kind of bought what seemed like a decent deal by the numbers, and then we ended up having to fix them up as time went on. And that's just how it is for a lot of people who buy rental properties. Rental properties to me are a great long-term vehicle of wealth. If you can hold these properties in appreciating areas like A-class areas, ideally, you're going to win in the long run. It's just not going to make you financially independent anytime soon, okay? You're going to need a ton of cash to dump into them in the first place. And then you're going to have to wait a little bit until they start making you some money. I needed something in real estate, a model to produce cash flow for me. I need cash flow. That's what I need. And that's probably what you need is you friggin' need cash flow. Money in your bank account every month, right? That's there whether or not you're doing a wholesale deal or a flip. You have to determine, you have to understand that. If you don't understand that's what you need and you actually need that, then you're going to go chase a bunch of stupid things. But if you actually need cash flow, then you need a model that has been proven to produce cash flow. It's not long-term rentals. Short-term rentals for a time did that for people, but now it's totally changed. I know some people talk about group houses, midterm rentals, all of those things can work. I'm not saying that there's not programs out there, but they're situational. I mean, like the markets shift, right? Like Airbnb goes bye-bye and then flipping is not passive, definitely not passive. Wholesaling is not passive at all. Very, very active. Being a real estate agent, the exact same thing. So what is it going to be that gets you there? Being a lender. Being a friggin' lender. That's what's going to get you there. And that's what I discovered in my business model. This is my journey to financial independence. I learned it's not going to be being a landlord that gets me financially independent. It's going to be being a lender to buyers who want to live in these properties that I purchase sub 2. And that consistent cash flow every single month, if I can stack that up and do enough deals, that's going to get me financially independent. Okay, because I can make those deals appear with a lot of hard work and a lot of ingenuity and resourcefulness and private money here and finding the deal there and just working hard. I can make those deals. I can make an infinite return with virtually no money out of my pocket. Okay. Now, if you have a lot of money, great. And if you want to be a private lender and just get a nice return, fantastic. Okay. That's partner with me. We'll become wealthy together. But most people do not have those resources and they're just trying to figure out a way to become financially independent. So that's what this video is all about. So how did it go from one sub 2 deal to financial independence? This is really exciting. I love talking about this with people. You have to start out by determining what's your financial independence number. How much cash flow do you need in a month where you have paid all your bills and you're good? So you need to find that number. It's going to be different for virtually everybody. But let's just say that number is like $5,000. You need $5,000 a month. So what is it going to take to produce $5,000 a month of passive income using creative finance to get you financially independent, right? Level 1 financial independence. Generally speaking, these deals that we do where we buy them with subject to financing or seller financing, and then we turn around and do a lease option, some people call a lease purchase or rent to own, it's all the same thing, or contract for deed, which is a form of seller financing, or a wrap, which is another form of seller financing. This is all the general category of selling with seller financing. So you buy with creative finance, so you get really good debt on the property, and then you turn around and you sell it creatively, and you create a spread between your payment and your buyer's payment to you. In general, on average, how much do those deals produce in cash flow? In my experience, I'd say if you chose the number 400, that's a pretty safe number. In some markets, it's higher than 400. In some markets, it might be a little bit lower than 400. But in general, if you are sticking to buying houses that are in A-class and B-class areas, I'm not talking about rental C and D-class areas. That's not my game. I'm not a slow flip guy. I'm not into $40,000 properties, $50,000. You will get like 50% of those properties back. Okay. That is not passive. If you want to buy in those areas, it's not going to be passive. I got news for you. You're in the slumlordville. You will be taking those properties back. I'm talking about buying nice assets like A-class, B-class. In my market, it's like $150,000 house up to $400,000 or something like that. Actually nice areas where people want to be for a long time, all right? They're not getting shot at. They're not going to like, oh, this house is falling apart. I want to give this back to you. I don't want to diss on that business model. It works for some people, but I personally am skeptical. I am just skeptical because I know the quality of renter and homeowner in that area, and it's not what I want to be dealing with. I know myself. If you're different, congratulations, go do that. What I'm talking about, A and Class B properties, $400 a month cash flow on these deals. So how many deals do you need to do if you're trying to get $5,000 a month of passive income? Let me just bust out my calculator here. 5,000 divided by 400. That can't be right. $5,000 divided by 400. Is that 12 and a half properties? 400 times 12 and a half houses equals $5,000 a month. Guys, that's friggin' ridiculous. It just takes 12 and a half houses to become financially independent on this business model? That's insane. Okay, so what if your number was $10,000? Well, geez, then I guess you need 25 properties. Does that seem like trying to reach and attain the moon? No, 25 houses. Some people do that in a year, like all day long. That's totally bananas. Now, let's just say that maybe it's like only $300 per door that you're generating and you're kind of not sure about your market, so you want to be conservative. I feel like 400 is kind of somewhat conservative, but let's just say it's 300. Okay, so if it's 300 a door, that's 16.6 deals. That's still not that much. Okay, so I mean, this is insane. So why don't people just go out and start doing this? I don't know. I think they find a video like this, they think it's cool, they reach out, oh, can I get your purchase contract? I got some questions about VA loans, blah, blah, blah. But maybe I should do some wholesale deals first. Okay, sure, go do some wholesale deals. Well, those are really hard to do. It's hard to get your first deal. It's hard to do your second deal. Yeah, it is really hard. Well, I guess I'll just quit. I guess this real estate thing doesn't work. You just need 12 and a half houses. Figure out a darn way to go get one, then all you need is 11.5 more. Okay, let's just call it 13. So you go out and get one, now you just need 12 more. Now you got your second one that was hard, now you just need 11 more. It is not that hard to go get 13 houses. I know it seems really impossible to get your first deal if you haven't gotten your first deal, but this was how I attained stage 1 financial independence. I took risks. You might need a person in your life to tell you it's okay to take risks if what you truly want is financial independence. Part of my daily routine and exercise is to meet with my future self who tells me things. And one thing they tell me is you need to take risks if you want this. If you really want this, you are afraid and you are being far too cautious. Do you think you're going to attain what you want this life, my 10-year from now life, where I've made it? Did I get here by being so cautious I couldn't go out and get my first deal because what if this, what if that? No, for me, I need to do this. I have a family, I have a life, it's short. There's other things I want to do besides this, and so I need to do this, and I need to do it quickly. I need to be smart. I need to squat up with somebody who knows what they're doing to give me expert guidance so that I can shortcut trial by error, because that takes a long time. Somebody to help me know how to create a scalable business, all right? So that's what I did. Getting back to just my story here. So after we did like 6 sub-2 deals, this was creating for us $2,500 a month. And at first, we kept on buying properties, and so we had these mortgages that we had to pay that was cutting into the cash flow. But after we had like 10 properties, we looked at our bank account and we realized, dang, we got like $4,000 coming in per month, which is like a very modest wholesale assignment fee. So at least we have a little tiny assignment fee coming in every single month, right? And then we continue to churn and do deals. Our second year of focusing on subject to and selling creatively, then we have 20 deals that we've done, right? And using this average of about $400 a door, now we've got $8,000 a month coming in. At the same time, I begin converting all of my single family long-term rentals into seller financing deals, right? So I effectively take them all sub-2 into a trust, and then I start selling them seller finance, right? So now my stupid little rental portfolio, which was crap and just a drain, and my property management sucked, and I was about to sue them because they wouldn't give me my money, got out of that dumb contract, and I sold them all with seller financing and said, see ya. And guess what? My little rental portfolio actually started making me friggin' money every single month. Instead of being a going negative and like pulling my hair out with stuff I have to replace. So now I don't know how much we're up to. We're over $10,000. Now I have business partners in a lot of these deals, so I'm not getting all the cash flow. We're splitting a lot of it. Eventually 25, 30 doors or 30 seller finance deals, we're over $12,000, $15,000 of monthly cash flow. Again, a lot of that's going to a business partners here or there. And so I'm just getting a chunk of that. But I have far surpassed my measly little $4,000 a month. Like if I could do that in 7 years buying 20 long-term rental properties. That was my little tiny vision I had. I had no idea that I could do this so much faster with creative finance. And what it took to get here, I'm going to tell you what it took to get there. It obviously took just taking the risk, taking a good, calculated, cautious risk to do our first deal and then do the next few, and then make a decision to laser focus on this and sacrifice. We had to sacrifice those big wholesales and those big flips because we were focusing on just buying creatively, just doing one thing in order to scale. And we had to live kind of like poor people for a little while because we didn't have the wholesale and flip income coming in like it was when we were focusing on that. We were focusing on building cash flow. And so we had to make a sacrifice for about a year and a half and live very conservatively because we had all these mortgage payments we had to make. We had to place tenant buyers and buyers. That's what it took, was that laser focus. But we got there and it's amazing. I'm so glad we got there. It's crazy. I praise God every day for it. And I hope that I can take this to the next level and teach people to take it to levels beyond what I've taken it. And I'm not the only one obviously doing this. There's a lot of people before me who've done this. And it's a tested and tried business model. But I'd say it took me about 2.5 years to really get to that point where I could kind of breathe and be like, oh man, we did 30 plus transactions and we are able to support ourselves off of this portfolio. And now I can go off and take some larger risks and try some different things and not have to worry about doing my next deal like next month in order to feed my family, right? Because I'm out of that mindset of transactional income. Now I just got to manage some tenant buyers who are late payers and charge them their late fees. And I got some other problems like that I have to deal with, but it's way better than having to just worry about having no income coming in next month. Even if I have a non-paying buyer or tenant buyer, there's always the prospect of taking that property back, either selling it to cash out my equity or getting another down payment from somebody else if I have to go through something like that. So it's just better to have real estate. It's better to control real estate. Even in a downtime, there's security in having and owning that real estate, even if you have issues come up. So this has been really long and winded, but it took me about 2.5 years focusing very intently on buying one particular way and then my exit strategy, selling one particular way. So what I'm talking about, if you've not been paying attention this whole video, is buying sub 2 and selling with seller financing / lease options. Okay. If you can focus on that, get that going, just do a few deals, then you can begin to think, how do I do these deals more quickly? How do I find more of these? How do I start to get money partners to help me fund these deals? I can teach you how to do all that stuff. I'm in the throes of learning how to do all that stuff better and better. If this video spoke to you, let me know. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on it. If you are curious about my mentorship programs and any of my coaching products or online products, you can reach out to me at hans@sub2investor.com or go to my website, sub2investor.com, and you can read about my various mentorship options there. But if you're interested in partnering up with me, either as a money partner, I do JV deals with equity partners, people who want to take kind of a bigger risk, come in and partner with me on deals, or just private money lending, just a steady 10% return on your money, getting paid monthly for lending on a deal. Let me know, because I'm actively expanding my lending network and money partner network, because the truth is that we can't do these deals without private money, and private money can't make money without good real estate deals and good, faithful operators who are honest, have integrity, and know how to get deals done. Okay, so let me know if any of that interests you. I plan to be putting out some really good content this year, continuing to break down deals that I'm doing and show you what I'm currently up to. I hope you've had a good new year and that this video inspires you to go out there, take some massive imperfect action. You got to get out there, start swinging the hammer, okay? Start doing some deals. Until next time, stay creative. Peace.